This is the story of the morning that changed everything, the transition from the deepest shadow to a light that would never go out. The dawn of the third day. The world was still, locked in the heavy silence of a garden tomb. Since Friday, a massive stone had stood as a cold, immovable seal over the hopes of the faithful. But in the pre-dawn gray, the earth began to shudder. It wasn't just a tremor of the ground. It was a rupture in the laws of nature. Jesus has rose. A brilliance, sharper and more intense than any sunrise, tore through the gloom. An angel, radiant as lightning, descended and rolled back the stone with a thunderous sound, not to let Jesus out, for he had already risen, but to let the world look in. Mary Magdalene's grief. As the sky began to turn to pale blue, Mary Magdalene approached the garden. Her hands were heavy with jars of burial spices, aloes, and myrrh, to finish the task left undone on Friday. She walked with her head bowed, her heart a hollow space of grief. When she looked up, her breath caught. The stone was gone. The dark mouth of the cave stood wide open. Panic surged through her. She dropped the jars, the oil spilling unheeded into the dirt. She ran inside, her eyes searching the stone slab where they had laid him. It was empty. The burial linens were there, collapsed like a discarded shell, and the cloth that had covered his face was folded neatly by itself. "They have taken the Lord," she cried into the empty air. She ran back outside and collapsed near the entrance, her body racking with sobs. To her, the empty tomb wasn't a miracle. It was a final, cruel theft. Through her tears, Mary saw a figure standing in the morning mist. "Woman, why are you weeping?" he asked gently. Thinking he was the gardener, she begged without looking up. "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him." Then the figure spoke a single word. "Mary." The way he said her name, the familiar cadence, the warmth, the life in it, shattered her grief instantly. She spun around, her face illuminating with a shock of joy. "Rabboni," she gasped, falling toward his feet. The man she had seen die was standing before her, wreathed in the soft gold of the rising sun. He was alive. The locked room. The news spread like wildfire, but for the other disciples it felt like a beautiful, impossible dream. By Sunday evening they were huddled in an upper room, the heavy wooden door barred and locked. They were afraid of the authorities, of the future, and of the silence of their leader. Without a sound, the atmosphere in the room changed. The flickering oil lamps seemed to grow brighter as a presence filled the center of the room. "Peace be unto you," the voice said. The disciples scrambled back in terror, thinking they were seeing a ghost. But Jesus stepped into the light. He showed them the ragged scars in his hands and the wound in his side. He ate with them, spoke with them, and breathed his spirit upon them. The room, once a tomb of fear, became a sanctuary of victory. The doubters touched, but Thomas was not there. When the others told him, he shook his head, his brow furrowed with the logic of the wounded. "Unless I see the print of the nails," he declared, "and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe." For 8 days Thomas lived in the tension of his friend's joy and his own dark doubt. Then the disciples gathered again. Once more the doors were locked. Jesus appeared among them. But this time his gaze went straight to Thomas. There was no rebuke in his eyes, only an invitation to the truth. "Thomas," Jesus said, holding out his hands, "reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands. And reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side. And be not faithless, but believing. Thomas didn't need to touch the wounds to know the truth. The wall he had built around his heart crumbled. He fell to his knees, the last of the shadows fleeing from his mind, and uttered the most profound confession of the story. "My Lord and my God." Jesus smiled upon him and spoke a blessing that echoes down through the centuries. "Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed." The stone was rolled away, the tomb was empty, and for those who had seen and those yet to come, the world was forever made new.